want the money, I want the fame, I want the whole world to know my name. This is mine, I gotta get it, I got to get it, got to get it. Another period.
Natasha, Leggero, and Riki Lindhome are the creators, stars, and co-writers of the excellent show Another Period. Backed by a brilliant cast that includes Christina Hendricks, Michael Ian Black, Paget Brewster, David Koechner, and other comedic heavyweights, Another Period is a hybrid reality show / period piece satire that is one of the most joke-rich and funniest programs on television today. On January 23rd, Another Period returns for its third season on Comedy Central, with episodes airing on the Comedy Network and Crave TV in Canada. So I recently connected with its talented creators on a conference call. Part of the Entertainment One podcast network and sponsored by Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, Planet Bean Coffee, and Granddad's Donuts, this is the 376th episode of Creative Control, featuring Natasha, Leggero, and Riki Lindhome of Another Period, with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
I want the whole world to know my name. This is mine, I gotta get it, I got to get it, got to get it. Another period.
Hi, Riki. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. It's good to have you here. And Natasha, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for asking.
Well, it's polite. I'm Canadian. We ask polite questions here. It's it's very, very, very
it's
nice.
All making sense now.
Well, first of all, I want to say I love Another Period. I want to take a moment here on behalf of whoever's listening to thank you for making this show. I can see all the work that goes into it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So that's what I just want to gush right from the top and say thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
Again, it's my Canadianness.
We like it, but we're biased. So I feel like it's sophisticated enough that Canadians would really be attracted to it.
Yes, and I mean, I can see the joy in it. I assume this is truly a labor of love. Is that fair to say, Riki? This is something you just love doing?
We love it. We're obsessed with it. Like, we think about it all year long, even when we're not making the shows. We got an idea yesterday for something. We just love it. It brings us a lot of joy.
Now, Natasha, how does when you say you both have an idea that came up, how does that sort of happen? Or how did this idea kind of come about? Is it just through conversation? Is it brainstorming on the show?
Well, I think, whenever we start talking about the show, we get inspired, or sometimes you'll see something in the news, and that will be, because right now we are in a time period where a lot of the things that were happening in the Gilded Age in America are sort of being echoed now. So a lot of times we'll be looking through the news and we'll be like, oh, this is something that we could put in our show that takes place 100 years ago.
Yeah.
There is a lot of that. And I want to get into the show because, you're launching the third season. When we last left the Bellecourts, everything in the family seemed to be in disarray and some chaos. There seemed to be some growth, but also chaos. There was a bankruptcy, divorce, the brown sheep of the family, if you will, Hortense, was in a fiery car
funny.
crash. Yeah.
Previously on Another Period.
Two women destroyed this haven of sin. They are, as of yet, unidentified. They are the new face of feminism.
May I present to you Hermit Constantine Bellecourt.
All right, sisters, clear the space. I have this room reserved for my meeting today.
And we will not rest until every woman everywhere has the right to vote. No votes for women!
Hortense and Bertram, they're dead.
You've been served. They're divorce papers.
I suppose I'll just take the Abbey.
All of the companies folded, and they all transferred their funds to the Abbey.
Sweet Dodo, may I have this one last dance?
How could this happen?
Riki, how does season 3 pick up the story of the Bellecourts? Are we jumping right back into where we were?
Yeah, we kind of start where we left off. We start, at Hortense's funeral. We're ready, we're jumping right back in, and Dodo, our mother, has all the money, and she's got this hot husband or hot boyfriend, Jermaine Clement, and it all, right from the beginning, it all sort of explodes.
Right. It literally, after the explosion, it explodes again.
Yeah.
So the funeral is, Natasha, there's a thing about the show that I enjoy, and I think a lot of people enjoy it, is that it does seem like no one really dies. So you mentioned, Riki mentions the funeral. Is it a sad occasion, this funeral, Natasha, would you say? Is it truly the end of Hortense, a beloved, if maligned character?
Well, I can't give it away, but I will say I would say the funeral is more inconvenient for Lillian and Beatrice because they'd rather be, taking a bath or something.
Right. Okay. But there's a chance.
And it's like 5 people in the family just passing around the only thing left of Hortense, which is like this burnt tire from her accident. We're just like, ew. And no one has anything to say about her.
Okay, so Hortense.
But there's a chance. Yeah, but I think no one really dies, and even if they do, there's always a chance.
I thought in the beginning of the 20th century, people died rather easily, but in your show, people seem very resilient. They always seem to come back from death.
Yes, they do.
Because we love our cast so much.
Except for the casting of Hortense. Do you love the cast? It's always changing, I must say. I don't mean to focus on Hortense, but she intrigues me. The casting has become kind of a joke.
We had a Hortense. We had this woman play Hortense in the pilot, and then she wasn't available to do the series, and so we had to recast, and we recast it for the rest of the season. So there's 2 Hortenses in season 1, and then at the end of season 1, the woman playing Hortense got another TV show, so we had to recast, and we're like, okay, let's just make a joke out of it and recast it every year.
Okay, so if and when we
might as well embrace it.
Right. If we hear from Hortense again in a spirit form, in a real form, it could be someone else.
Yes, it will be.
Oh, it will be. Okay, I see what you're saying.
No,
okay.
if we hear from Hortense again, it'll be someone else.
Okay.
Because every year we want to have a new Hortense.
Okay, all right. That clarifies things slightly. Thank you very much. Now, Riki, you mentioned Father Donahue, Jermaine Clement. I hesitate to get into too many plot dynamics with this show because it's so silly, but I did notice that there seems to be a new power dynamic there, maybe some conflict with Michael Ian Black's Peepers. Is that something we can expect? Is there going to be a blow-up over Dodo there?
Yeah, there is. There's a love triangle because, they both have vested interest in Dodo for, either nefarious or benevolent reasons.
Yes, Dodo
but, they butt heads over her.
Right, okay, so we will see more of that. And Natasha, I want to ask you about Blanche. Blanche had a baby. How is that work-life balance going to work? I have a suspicion it's not going to work out very well for her.
I mean, think of how hard it is to have a baby in general if you're like, a normal person who's not having to shovel coal for your whole life. So, I think that it's not going to go well. But there are going to be some surprises as well.
Yes, the show...
With Blanche's baby.
Oh, with Blanche's...
And also Blanche's baby is played by Beth Dover's real baby.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So this... We're going to learn more about... I'm intrigued by all of the characters, but Blanche's backstory fascinates me, and I just worry that she's going to be saddled with that baby while she's doing stuff, and I worry. That's all. It's a concern. I have a concern.
You have yeah, you should.
about Blanche.
I'm just a little worried.
Yeah, I mean, the fun part about Blanche is that nothing ever goes well for Blanche, and no matter how close she gets to happiness, she'll never actually find it.
Yeah.
So it's that journey,
Yeah.
That's what we want from Blanche.
Now, I want to talk, for people who haven't seen the show, they might be a little lost at this point, and that's fair. We're trying to get them to watch it because, as I said at the top, one of the greatest and funniest shows I've ever seen. Natasha, can you talk a little bit about what initially inspired Another Period?
Yeah, I had just randomly read this book about the Gilded Age in America because, everyone was, watching Downton Abbey, and I loved it, but like, well, what about America? Like, what was America doing at that time? And I read this book, and it basically talked about how 90% of all of the wealth in America, during the Gilded Age, was like 1900 to 1910, was all in this place, Newport, Rhode Island. 90% of all the wealth. So I was like, wow, this place sounds amazing. And, I happened to take a trip there. I had some free time. I was just so interested in this. And I just thought it would be a good place to just go relax by myself. And I was just so intrigued by the house tours, and then I had told Riki about it. Well, Riki and I were both wanting to come up with an idea together, and so she had an idea. I had an idea about this, about this turn of the century thing, and then another thing about a fake reality show, and then Riki had an idea. She's like, well, what if we combine those things? And then she came to Rhode Island with me, and we went on all these house tours and got really inspired by the place, and then the show kind of just started to write itself as we kind of learned about all of these stories. Huh. Would you say that's right, Riki?
Yeah, we think it's like if a family like the Kardashians moved into Downton Abbey. That's kind of the premise. Because we were talking about making a parody of a reality show, which is very hard to do because they're so out there already. And then talking about the Gilded Age, and it was like, oh well, let's put that together.
Yeah, I mean, I was also a fan of Burning Love, which did sort of a similar thing with a similar group of people. You, Natasha, you were involved on that show, as I recall.
Burning Love, yes.
Yes, and Riki, were you involved in any way?
I was not. I wish so, because I loved that show. If they make a new season, I'm available.
Yeah.
I mean, we all kind of know each other, and Mike Rosenstein and Red Hour produced it, and they produced our show, so we're all kind of part of the same improv family. But yeah, I think that's how we found Beth.
Yeah, no, I only raised that show here because I feel like reality TV at the time, in particular, was really ripe for parody and satire. Do you feel like it still has that prevalence today?
I mean, I think so, but it would have to be, you'd have to have another angle, like how we set ours in 1902. Like, I think you need to, dig deeper, because there's so many reality shows that it'd be hard to parody.
I mean, if you watch Burning Love now, it's still amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. I think the parodies are holding up, maybe even more so than some of the actual shows. I don't know. I'm a little disengaged from reality TV myself. I don't watch a lot. I don't watch any of it, frankly. But at the same time, it's in the culture enough that I get all your jokes. Like I get, like on Another Period, like I can tell with the editing and what you're doing, like the kind of documentary and lunacy of the cast of characters. It all comes through, which I appreciate. I'm curious, are there any significant changes on Another Period, say within the casting, production, writing, or the way you approach this show generally that are reflected this season? Riki, do you want to take that one?
Well, one thing that's different is, last season, Paget Brewster, who plays our mom Dodo, she was on another show, but then this season she got to be in every episode. So there's a lot more Dodo, which is exciting.
Okay.
And we have a lot of Jason as well, Jason Ritter.
Yeah. We focus a lot on Jason's political career this season, which is fun because he's the dumbest character in the house.
That's right. And when last we left, I believe he was vice president. He was facing some accusations there, but he remains the vice president of the United States?
Yes, he does.
Okay. All right.
He's a heartbeat away from running things.
Right. Speaking of helping run things, I'm just curious, just for more background, Natasha, how did you both connect with Jeremy Connor? I see his name as being very integral, his work being very integral to this show. Can you talk a little bit about your work with Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually Riki's idea. I think maybe Riki, you should say why you thought of Jeremy. I mean, he's obviously the perfect person for this. I think it was just an instinct, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was years ago, and so we were trying to find the right director, and I was like, well, there's this guy who made this short called Drunk History that, people hadn't really seen it yet. It wasn't a show. It was just this Funny or Die short, and I sent it to Natasha, and she was like, yeah, that's the guy. And, we sent him the script and met up, and it was just, it just felt right.
Yeah. Well, you
and he's directed every episode.
He did, right. And his work, so he's directing Another Period, and how much creative input does he have with you in terms of writing the show? Oh, actually, I guess he does he writes episodes as well, right?
He's in the writer's room with us as much as he can be, because he's also, Drunk History has a pretty busy schedule because they shoot so much, because they shoot all of the interviews. You get that show, right, in Canada?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. So they have to shoot all of the interviews, then they shoot all of the reenactments. So he's very busy, but he really was committed to, coming in and out as much as he could. So he definitely, he's amazing with story. He's actually a really talented writer as well as director. So he was really integral in helping us figure out, stories and yeah.
So, Natasha,
he's funny. And he's kind of got it all.
Natasha, you read this book about the Gilded Age of America, and both of you just referenced Drunk History. There's something going on here about how history and the past might be relevant to the present. I mean, that's going on your show, too. Can you talk about that? Are you both history buffs, so to speak? Like, Natasha, what compelled you to read this book about America's past? Was it anything to do with what, like, is this can this book inform what's happening now? Like, did you have that instinct?
I mean, I think that, like, more than anything, I was just interested in glamour. And, I always like reading about, like, rich people, and I'm just kind of fascinated by, glamour and wealth and how it comes about, like almost, in my stage persona, I sort of study it. And I kind of came from a working class background. So I've always, you're always kind of fascinated by what you don't have. So I think more than anything, I was just interested in that. And then hearing about this city that still exists that used to be like, the Downton Abbey of America, or, our royal, because America doesn't necessarily have royal roots like England, but, we kind of did it in a different way. And then once Riki and I started really studying it, it was so interesting because it's like, the families who lived in Newport are very unique. Like, they're not like the people from Downton Abbey. They don't come from, 30 generations of dukes and duchesses. They're, people who...
Yeah, there's nothing preordained about their wealth. They earned it, right? They went from, like, being a fur trapper to being a billionaire.
Right.
Yeah, so they were much more scrappy, much more new money. And, that is very American. And we realized no one's really told a story, even in a dramatic way. I mean, ours is a comedy, but there was, everyone's always obsessed with the 1920s. And, there's so many periods in American history that have been so, like, mined. And we just thought, wow, this one, no one really talks about it.
Yeah. Riki, are you yourself also fascinated by this notion of dynasty without decorum? Because that's what I feel like really is going on on the show.
I really am. And that's one of the reasons I find certain reality shows interesting, like the Real Housewives shows or the Kardashians, because it is dynasty without decorum. And it's new. These people had so much money, they didn't know what to do with it, and they couldn't stop showing it off.
Yeah, there's that aspect.
They just kept spending it.
Right. There's that kind of opulence. But what about this notion of not knowing how to behave in society as a civilized human being? Like, there seems to be an absence of just general civilized behavior, which I find fascinating. And clearly it's great fodder for comedy. I mean, can you think of other...
Well, on our show, there are no good people on our show. Everyone's a bad person. And that's on purpose because it's funnier. It's just funnier. Like, everyone is, terrible in their own ways. Everyone's sort of flawed and evil. And it's more fun to play those characters.
Right, yeah. And I mean, I hinted at this towards the end.
Some of the servants are good.
Wait, who? Which one is good?
Well, I would say Blanche isn't bad.
Yeah, I guess Blanche is put upon. Maybe Garfield.
Garfield.
I do have to say we do have that episode in season 1 where Blanche gets to be a royal for a day, and she immediately turns bad.
Yeah,
she's like throwing meat at Christina Hendricks. Like, it took her half an hour.
Yeah, and I just suggested that Blanche was okay, even though she pushed a pregnant woman down the stairs. So that tells you where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I might have some problems.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen that episode. But geez, yeah. So yeah, you're right. It's a cruelty. It's an evil.
But that's the bar. It's the best person in the house pushed a pregnant woman down the stairs.
Yes, that is the nature of the show.
And I also want to say, in terms of just the show and how we kind of lucked into this whole world, I think it's just it just was luck that it just kept getting the echoes of the past just keep becoming more and more relevant today. And it's like at that time period they weren't paying income tax, and now it's like we've just finally, with this new income tax bill in America, figured out how to legally have the super rich people pay even less income tax. So it's like everything's just sort of being echoed. And also, this is the time, it's basically this time and the Gilded Age are the two times in history, Riki was just telling me this, where there's the most disparity among the rich and the poor.
Right.
So we're basically right back there.
Oh, stupid me. I sullied these potatoes with my stupid blood.
Garfield, this is not your fault. You were completely sleep deprived.
Thank you, Talking Radish.
You know what? This is madness. We are making all these sacrifices, putting ourselves in physical danger, holding on to our bowel movements for days.
I haven't been holding anything in. If you open up a closet door, expect a surprise.
Closet crapping. And for what? We're going to stop serving the Bellacourts and start serving ourselves. We are going to strike.
But we haven't been ordered to strike.
Oh, what is this? Have I stumbled upon a garden party? Should I have brought my limbo stick? Oh, look at this. Susan brought my limbo stick. Thank you very much, Susan. The President of America is coming to dinner, but we're having a limbo party. Come on, everybody. How low can you go? How low can you go?
Mr. Peepers, we don't want to limbo. We want to strike.
Strike! How dare you utter the S word in this kitchen, you ungrateful piece of shit!
Yeah, there's a thing that I think I've heard people from the show Veep talk about this, where they would film an episode of the show and then something would happen in the news cycle that was so eerily similar that they were kind of creeped out. Like just something so absurd happened that they kind of rewrote scenes or maybe reshot things or just rethought about the show. Has that happened to you? Have you come up with a sequence or a plot idea and then wondered maybe we should revisit this?
Yeah, we did an episode about hatchet control, which is like gun control. And David Wayne, who plays my husband, has a condition where he like inexplicably throws hatchets, and I still think we should have hatchets. And it aired at the same time when the Senate was doing that sit-in about gun control on the Senate floor.
Oh, weird.
So that was a weird parallel. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then also we have coming up in this third season, Lillian tries to date this. Is he a senator, Riki?
No, he's a toilet king.
Right, but he's in charge.
Yeah.
He's a toilet king?
He is in charge of...
Yeah.
Well, toilets were like big business back then because, not everyone had one.
Right, of course. Sure. Yes. Yes.
But basically, Lillian finds out that he wanted a girl who was like under 14. And so she tries to pose as a younger person. But basically, it's very echoing of the Roy Moore situation. And he even kind of sounds like Roy Moore, the guy we cast. Like it wasn't totally unintentional.
Yeah.
We wrote that a year ago.
In the Comedy Central promo for this, they wrote that in the upcoming season, the Bellacourts fight for suffrage in Congress, become some of America's first female Olympic athletes, deal with an opioid addiction, and campaign to make America great again for the first time. So clearly, like those are contemporary issues in most cases, and they inform the show. How important is it for you to use that kind of fodder to comment on what's happening about it? You know what I mean? On your show, because you've got this show set in the past. Do you view the show as a vehicle to make this kind of commentary, Riki?
Yeah, we do. And we try to have a mix because we don't want it to be preachy. So we try to have a mix of commentary and silliness, just all, thrown together. But we don't want to, we're able to say these things and we want to. Like there's a scene this season where Frederick is, running to be the president, and he goes to the Dodo Bird Hunters Union and promises to unextinct the birds so they'll get their jobs back. And there's a big parallel there.
Right. Wait, with what
and
is?
But it's also funny. So.
Yeah. What about you there, Natasha? Do you feel the same? Like, is it important for you to use the show to sort of comment on what's going on?
I mean, I think what's really great about the show is like it just sort of happens that it's very relevant now, so we don't really have to push it, and then we can just focus on the comedy and, the silliness, like the classic Another Period, stuff that really did happen in history. Like this woman did throw a huge dinner party for her dog, so we can just kind of do all the silly stuff, and then the political stuff just sort of is there ingrained into the fabric of the show. So it's really nice.
Yeah. I can see that because it does seem like you're focused more on the jokes and that other stuff kind of, as you say, it just sort of occurs within it. I can appreciate that. Growing up as a young person, as a man in Canada, I really looked up to Ben Stiller. I liked his Ben Stiller show a lot. I liked his films. I'm just curious about your interactions. For those who don't know, his production company is involved in this show. Does he have a creative role at all in Another Period? I know he appeared as Ponzi, but does he actually interact with you in terms of the writing or the creation of the show?
Not in the writing or creation of it. I think he's more there for support. His blessing on a show, it gets the show made. and he went to the TCAs with us, and he'll talk about it in the press, and he's passionate about the show. He loves the show. But creatively, it's, they leave it to me and Natasha.
Okay. Natasha, did that show mean something to you, the Ben Stiller show? Did you ever see it?
Well, it was a slight, I don't want to say before my time, because I just wasn't in the comedy world when it came out, but I remember my first manager gave it to me as like a Christmas gift to watch, and so I watched it sort of after the fact, but I was very impressed with it, with everyone. It was Andy Dick and Janine Garofalo, and I just thought they were also, it was Bob Odenkirk in that too, right?
Yeah.
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I just thought it was so good and so funny. And that was before Mr. Show, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I don't mean to comedy nerd out about it, but yeah, that for some reason that I still see the Ben Stiller show as sort of, it was only around for I think like 8 episodes or something, like a very short run, but I can see it. Like I kind of see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a very short. It got canceled, but it also had this freewheeling satiric, like it was very contemporary and like very much of the moment and really skewering whatever.
And everything kind of flowed into the next sketch and. Oh, I had no idea that I owned the entire library of it, because I was given the gift of the season. But yes, I think that Ben is definitely a fan of the show, and it was so amazing. I mean, he's obviously so busy, but it was so great that he was able to even be, a part on our show. We were so excited to have him.
Yeah.
And he was so funny. So
yeah, he was really good, and he did we wrote him a lot of really out there lines, and he was like so game.
Yeah.
But he has people working for him or with him. Debbie Liebling, who was like very integral in our kind of creative process. She would give us great notes on every script and really worked like hand in hand with the network and us. And I don't know if you know who she is. She pretty much brought South Park to Comedy Central. So she's kind of a legend in her own right. So yeah. So, Ben hired amazing people to help with the show.
Yeah.
When he couldn't be there.
Right. Okay. Well, I, speaking of Ben and some of the people you've had on the show, as in past seasons, Another Period has a long list of amazing guest stars scheduled to appear this season. I'm curious, at this point, Riki, was there anyone who actually made a point of asking if they could be cast on the show this year? Are you at that point?
I'm not sure. We've had comedians, friends be like, hey, if you have something for me, I'd love to do it. And then we're always like, yeah, because, we have so many funny friends. And people have definitely mentioned that, but I don't think we've had any specific, outreach, please write me a role. Not that I know of. Did you have any of that, Natasha?
I mean, definitely people have asked me. I don't want to say their names because I haven't been able to cast them all. But I think one thing we've really realized is that people, especially theater people, men love to play gay and love to dress up. And everyone just sort of wants to get into these clothes and be these people. It was a much more flamboyant, fun time. Definitely not casual. I mean, there's really, even the servants aren't casual. I mean, there really wasn't.
They're all in tuxedos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you've got to really commit to your role. Yeah.
The women change clothes, 9 times a day, and the clothes are so extravagant, and it's just such a different time period.
Yeah, Natasha, are you actually excited about any particular historical figures that are going to be appearing on the show this season? I know I don't want to spoil anything, I don't want to ruin anything, but are you particularly excited about anyone coming up on the show? Again, historical figures.
I'm excited that Hitler makes an appearance.
Hitler, really? Wow.
Yeah, he was 11 at the time.
11. I'm also excited about the Houdini, who was a magician at the time, who was kind of all the rage. He makes an appearance in episode 2.
I like that you explained who Houdini was to me just now. That was amazing.
You never know. Canadian, you guys know everything, but America is stupid. They don't know what vaudeville is. Everyone's just kind of clueless.
Yeah.
So you just got to really explain things.
Houdini, I believe, died in Montreal. Did you know that?
Oh, wow, no.
Yeah, it's a great shame, actually. I don't know how it happened. I don't know if it had something to do with the city, but yeah, he's gone. And
Didn't he get Houdini got punched in the stomach too hard? Wasn't that it?
I believe by a French.
He had a trick where he would get punched in the stomach, and then he got punched really hard in a weird spot. Maybe that's just a legend.
No. That's well, I mean, it's as true as a legend can be. That's what I've heard as well. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Not to dwell too much on Hitler, but isn't one of Lillian's middle names Hitler?
Lillian might be related to him when he comes. That's a very good call.
Okay, I just want to.
Lillian, Abigail, Hitler, Schmemmer, Hornfish.
Right. Okay. Well, I as I say, I love the show. I'm very happy it's back. I'm curious at this point if you can talk a little bit about either what's next for you or what's next for the show. I mean, as the show, are you done? You're done taping this season of the show, I presume. It's all done.
Yes.
Okay.
And edited and ready to go.
Ready to go. So if anything weird happens, you can't fix it now. Like if anything changes and we all decide if we all decide that Hitler's cool, you can't go back and change it.
Right. Well, some people have, clearly. So there's that. But this season, it just sort of takes everything up a notch. It's sort of it's just turned up. It's more frantic. It's even more jokes. It's even crazier. So I love this season.
Okay. And in terms of both of you individually, I know you come together for this show, but is there anything coming up for each of you that you want to talk about in terms of other projects?
I have a special, but I just don't have an air date, so I don't know when it's coming out yet. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's great.
Netflix.
That's awesome. That's great. And Riki,
I've just been writing.
Okay, so you got
so nothing specific coming out.
Okay, but so the focus.
But Riki, you have
show
running.
Show running is a full-time job, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
But Riki, you have your special on Netflix too.
Oh yeah, there's the Garfunkel and Oates special, Trying to Be Special, on Netflix, which is really fun. You should check that out.
Yeah, I the only other question, speaking of Garfunkel and Oates, like, should we expect more and maybe more elaborate musical numbers? Because I thought you kicked that up last season a little bit too, towards the end. Are we going to see more?
You know, there's a whole there's an episode this season where Garfield finds his birth parents, and he's going to sing some songs that we wrote. So
and all of our songs have been written by Kate and Riki, but I don't think they're going by Garfunkel and Oates as the writing duo, but they have written all the songs.
Okay, so
that's right, Riki?
Yes.
So we're likely going to see more musical numbers.
Yep, there's two more this season.
Okay, great. Well, listen, I'm a big fan. I want to thank you both for being on this show and for chatting with me today, and I wish you the best of luck with everything, and also let people know that Another Period is available on Comedy Central and the Comedy Network here in Canada and Crave TV here in Canada as well. So watch Another Period. It's amazing. Riki, Natasha, thank you so much for being on the show, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Nice talking to you.
Special thanks again to Natasha Leggero and Riki Lindhome of Another Period for being on the 376th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One Podcast Network and is available on all your finer podcast platforms. If you can't find an episode of the show that you're looking for, or you want to learn more about me, or sign up for my regularly scheduled newsletter, please visit my website, vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control with Vish Khanna on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Vish Creative or at Vish Khanna. You can also listen to a radio show version of Creative Control on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Standard Time around the world at CFRU.ca or on an actual radio at 93.3 FM if you're in or near Guelph, Ontario. Please also consider visiting patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation and keep this podcast going. Thanks to everyone who has pledged to this show. It means a lot and could also use more support. So please, again, patreon.com/Creative Control. Thanks again to all the sponsors who make this show possible, as well as you listening. I really, really appreciate it. If you want to continue to support the show, just listen to it, really. Download it, subscribe to it, rate and review it positively, and spread the word about this program. And speaking of programs, again, please watch Another Period. If you like to laugh, this show is unbelievable. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I hope you get into it and enjoy it if you've not seen it before, because I think it's brilliant. All right, that's all I have to say for now. I will talk to you very, very soon. Goodbye for now.